guys, this is Morgan with the Rotoscopers, and today I am doing another fabulous art book review. This time it's the art of Princess Mononoke. Ooh. So for those of you who are new or the uninitiated to Studio Ghibli art books, one thing that you're going to notice right away is that they have a lot of backgrounds, whether it's finished background paintings, concept background art, and one of the main things that is completely different is they have a lot of finished cells. I'd say over half of the pieces in here are finished frames that you see in the film. Some might think, oh, that's not very interesting, I can see that in the movie, but I think the way that they structure it is very interesting. So just be aware of that. That is art. The finished frame is art. You know, we don't have to only focus on the pre-art that made the final art. Why don't we talk about the final art? So the first part of this book, we have poems about each of the main characters from Miyazaki himself. And these were poems that he had written to give to the composer, so the composer could kind of get a feel about each of these characters when he was developing the melodies and the themes for the score. I thought this was really fascinating because they're very lyrical, they're very expressive, and this is kind of our first impression of these characters as we go into this book. Very, very beautiful. Obviously first written in Japanese and translated into English, but it's just interesting. It's kind of the making of this film that you normally wouldn't see in a book like this. So the main chunk of the book focuses scene by scene on the movie. So if in scene one we're introduced to a new character, we have concept sketches for that character. We have a lot of background cells for that particular scene, that environment, and you really go scene by scene. It's very meticulous. If you hadn't seen the movie, you will understand the movie very clearly from this book. You could basically read this book and not have to see the movie. I mean, obviously still see the movie, the animation is incredible, but this will do. Many of these sketches are done by Miyazaki himself, especially the preliminary sketches of the characters and what they look like. So you will see definitely a theme in style because you know, the concept sketches at the very beginning are really the ones used for the main character. And so we don't get to see different variations of the characters that much, but that's okay, because that's the way Miyazaki works. Miyazaki knew what he wanted his characters to look like, so we got them. So I think this section is very beautiful. I was able to appreciate the background paintings and just the artistry and the way that everything was composed and set up. Very, very interesting. If you're a Miyazaki fan, if you're a Princess Mononoke fan, you're gonna love this. You're just gonna be able to, it really takes apart the scene so you can see the background, I can see the character, I can see the final cell. Really, really decomposes it for you so you can study and you can understand how this studio made this masterpiece. So the next chapter is actually really interesting. It's called CG, all about digital imaging. Princess Mononoke was actually one of the first films to really heavily utilize computer graphics. Yes, they had used it in other films in bits and pieces, but this section really talks about how they really dug deep and they really explored how can we make a movie better by using these tools. And while the previous sections don't have very much text, you're not going to get very much in the previous section, which goes scene by scene, saying, oh, well, in this scene we decided to do this. There's no explanation text at all. But in the CG section there's an interview with one of the artists who was kind of in charge of this department. So you get a little bit more into the backstory and why they chose this and the struggles and the challenges that they had, which I thought was great. It really goes deep into the different CG techniques they used, from mapping, from morphing, just to computer graphics, to composition, to even digital ink and paint. Princess Mononoke was the first Studio Ghibli film to use digital ink and paint. The American studios, like Disney, had been using it for nearly a decade at the time, but Princess Mononoke was the first of Studio Ghibli. So in this book, it talks about how they were new to this process and what they learned. And it's very interesting because now that's just so commonplace. I don't think you would use real paint for, you know, such a big feature film, but at the time it was hard to make that transition, and so we get to learn about that, and I thought it was just really cool. In this section they had a lot of screenshots of the actual computer screen, so you got to see the models and what it was like for an artist working on this film. Like, what did they see day to day? Really, really cool stuff. The next section is the Hayao Miyazaki layout collection. So basically he went and did quite a bit in, I guess you would say, the storyboards and composing the scene. He was obviously the director of this film and had a very clear vision of what he wanted this to be. So there's pages and pages of his drawings and sketches of basically storyboards of how he wanted each scene to be composed. Really interesting. It has his signature style all over it. And I'm really happy to see these here because they add so much depth to this book and my understanding about this film. Now, the last section is a production diary. I have never seen this in an animation book before, and this is what I love about these Studio Ghibli books, is that there's always something that they surprise me with. With The Wind Rises, we got the entire script of the movie. I'd never seen that in a book before. This, we get the production diary, so basically a day-by-day breakdown of what happened during the entire production of the film. Basically the minutes from their meetings, or just basically on this day we moved this scene into production, on this day we had script changes, on this day we went and we recorded the score. So if you're interested in the behind the scenes making of and how the story evolves and developed, you want to read that because you're not going to get that anywhere else. So all in all, I'm going to give The Art of Princess Mononoke 3.5 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed this book. I'm a Princess Mononoke fan. It's one of Studio Ghibli's greatest masterpieces, and reading this book I felt that much more connected to the characters in the movie and understanding why it chose to do certain things. And this is a very important movie to Miyazaki. It has a lot of themes that are important to him about society versus nature, and he goes into that in that introduction paragraph. That's really the only narrative we get from him in his own words. And so I love this. It's gonna make me appreciate the movie that much more. I would definitely check it out, especially if you're a Studio Ghibli fan. It's a must buy. Alright guys, let me know in the comments below what you thought about my review. Will you be picking this book up? If so, be sure to buy it at rotoscopers.com/art of Princess Mononoke. Be sure to like this video if you like Studio Ghibli, and subscribe for more amazing art book reviews. Until next time, I'm Morgan, and this is the Rotoscopers YouTube.